to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay.
Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. My name is host Mike Jokum. Jess and Matt are joining me. We have some news to go over and plenty of fan questions. This week brought to you by gripmat.com, the world's first flexible non-slip tool mat that makes for a great gift for the person who loves working on their car. Use promo code PLPTV for 10% off your order. So we'll start with a little tribute to John Andretti, who passed, I think it was Thursday or Friday of last week. The man won at just about every type of racing he participated in. So I hope the Andretti family is doing okay. I know the funeral services for him were at some point during the week this week. So our thoughts are with the Andrettis this week.
Yeah, thoughts are with the whole family. I mean, obviously this is a big loss. Kind of had our time to make peace with the fact that he had cancer, but it still is shocking nonetheless. Definitely thoughts are with the family and friends as they get through this hard time.
Yeah, sad all around. Thoughts with the Andretti family and everybody who was close with John. Personal highlight of mine of his was his kind of shocking win at Surfers Paradise right before the IndyCar split. Pretty cool win for him. Pretty great memory. And yeah, like Mike said, he was just kind of talented at everything he did. So hopefully the Andretti family's pulling through and it's been a lot of good memories shared on Twitter. So that's really good to see in times like this. So just wishing everybody the best.
Yeah. So we will jump right into some news here. We have news coming out of the Foyt stable this week. Tony Kanaan has signed on to do 5 races, including the 500 this year. He wanted to do a full season. Unfortunately, didn't get the funding together. You guys have a favorite memory of him through the years?
The Michigan win where he kind of came storming back in the last couple laps, if I'm not mistaken, pretty early on in his career.
Yeah, I have 2 favorite memories of Tony Kanaan's. The first is the ridiculous stat that he finished every lap of the 2004 IRL season. It was some over 3,000 laps, which is just crazy. And then my second favorite was his shoving match that he got into with Sam Hornish Jr. and Sr. at Watkins Glen in 2007, whether he was kind of just an innocent victim in that or whatever. I thought that was just kind of a moment to show his passion and whatnot. So that always stood out to me for sure.
I was lucky enough to call TK a friend for quite a while. And I will say that my most fond memory of him was when he won the 500. I started running to Victory Circle with, I don't know, 5 laps to go or so. And literally I sit in turn 1. And if you've ever been there, you'll understand there's not a good place to cross from turn 1 and get to the infield. So I had probably close to a mile jog. And I ran up, and I've got pictures in Victory Lane with TK, and I'll have to see if we can't share those on the fan sites. But yeah, so that's definitely mine.
Wait, hang on a second. You said you went with 5 laps to go?
Yeah, roughly.
Wasn't Ryan Hunter-Reay leading with 5 laps to go?
Yeah, come on now.
You took it. That's calling your shot, right?
Going to happen.
That's calling your shot. I love it. That's just
I got to the tunnel right as the checkered flag was waving, and the tunnel, if you again have ever been there, the main tunnel on that side of the track is actually very close to the start finish line, and so I got to see it, and I was crying as I was running under the tunnel, but I kept going.
So what I really heard there was that Tony Kanaan really needs to thank you for his win, is what I got out of that.
I don't know if we can go that far, but I'll definitely say I was pulling for him that year. Okay, so we also have a fan question from Laura Mish. She wants to know, he mentioned in his speech that he kind of gave the other day that he was thinking about racing some other disciplines. What do you guys want to see him in?
I think a couple NASCAR races here and there, I think aren't out of the question. I believe 5-6 years ago, he threw out the idea of maybe racing a NASCAR race or two, and It wasn't well received because everybody was worried that he was going to ditch IndyCar altogether, which wasn't out of the question at the time. So I think either that or, who knows? It's really just depends on what his heart wants to do. But I think since it's not too far from where he lives, a NASCAR racer here or there might not be out of the question.
Oh, I'm definitely voting for the Chili Bowl. I would love to see Tony get a shot in the Chili Bowl now.
That would be a lot of fun. I will second that. Please don't make it NASCAR, though. I don't really want to.
I'm not saying I want to see it. I don't want to see it. It just is probably possible.
Yeah, the Chili Bowl would be awesome. I think it'd be fun to see him do some endurance races too. IMSA possibly would be fun. What do you guys think about more 500s in the future?
It's definitely possible. I don't think he closed the door on that at all, being kind of a 500 specialist maybe for a couple of years. So, yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I am too. And I think, if he can unshackle himself from Foyt in next year, just bring, if he does have sponsors, which I don't think he'll have a problem with, to a team with a pedigree that has an additional entry open. I think he kind of got dogged for his time at Ganassi, but despite that, he was really good at Indy still with Ganassi. So I still think he can wheel it around there, and hopefully someone steps up and takes him.
I for sure see him doing more, so I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. And then one last question about him. Do you guys kind of wish that it was more than 5 races? Are you okay with his last season being 5 races? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, as a whole, it doesn't bother me. I mean, the guy's had 380 something starts or whatever. So, he's had his time. I think the 5 ovals, I feel as if he's got a good chance of succeeding. We know Foyt's not the strongest team, so I don't know if the road course races are going to add anything to his farewell tour per se. I thought it was kind of interesting, though, in his media call that he was asking or saying that he didn't want to be done and something along those lines, that he wished he could continue, but things didn't fall in place. So I think 5 races is kind of fair given the circumstances.
I'm actually kind of excited. I know any competitor wants to be in all 17 races, but he mentioned in the races that he won't be doing. He'll still be at the track. He'll still be engaging with fans. He might even do more engagement with fans. So Tony Kanaan around fans will be a sight to see. So I think it stinks that it's only 5 races, but I think there will be plenty of Tony in 2020 that we'll be able to get our fill of.
I am going to kind of go the opposite way of you guys. I feel like I wish I would have seen him have one last really good season with a really good team, but at least he's on the ovals, and I think that's a positive. So we'll stick with that. One more piece of news out of the Foyt stable this week: Dalton, Kellet, and Sebastian Bourdais are going to be splitting the other seat at Foyt. So they will get some seat time too. So that's good for Bourdais for sure. And it'll be interesting to see how Kellet does. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Bourdais, we heard this was a possibility. So I'm glad to see him get a handful of races. I think we might see him with another team for maybe the 500. He did have a few tweets today when people were saying, I want to see you in May. And he said, well, check back soon, sort of thing. So I think we'll see more from Bourdais. Dalton, Kellet, I am going to keep an open mind on this one. I don't know, but the Indy Lights track record hasn't been stellar, but people speak highly of the kids. So I'm going to give him a shot.
Yeah, as I keep saying, I've kind of said as much as I need to say about Kellet, but I do have one more thing to throw in there on him, in that, he started 71 Indy Lights races over 5 years, I believe. And he's the first driver to step up into IndyCar without getting an Indy Lights win since Charlie Kimball did it in 2009 and 2010. Now, you could look at that 2 ways. You could say, oh gosh, I don't know if Kellet should be jumping up to IndyCar, which is the opinion I have. But you could also look at it that, Charlie Kimball stuck around for 10 years and has been we'll say, serviceable driver. He brings the car home sometimes in one piece, and he's got to win. I mean, he can't take it away from him. He'd had a really good race in Mid-Ohio in 2013. So, you could look at that either way. And then I think it's an awesome to get Bourdais on your team. So I think that's phenomenal for Foyt and a step in the right direction for sure.
Definitely think that Bourdais is a step in the right direction for them, and Dalton could go either way for me. I think that they are doing exactly what they've said they wanted to do, though, and kind of flipping things completely on their head at that team. So I think that things might maybe possibly look up for them. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be one of the teams to watch for sure, as far as if they can show any improvement or whatnot. As far as the Indy Lights fact that I just stated, I just wanted to clarify that that's with drivers with a minimum of 10 Indy Lights starts. There are a couple others who stepped up, but only had a handful of starts. So, but we'll move on. I'm really not looking forward to this segment. I got to eat my words here a little bit. I bragged too soon and may or may not, but definitely rubbed it in Mike's face a little too early. This is in regards to Fernando Alonso. And in my defense, I think there's some petty nonsense going on here that we can discuss in a little bit. But so basically what's happening here, if anybody hasn't heard yet, is that Fernando Alonso was set to drive for Andretti Autosport in the Indy 500, plus the chance of maybe doing some other races outside of Indianapolis, which is awesome. But Japan got word of this, specifically Honda in Japan. And the execs at Tokyo decided to axe the deal at the last second, denying the chance for Alonso to race with Honda engines in IndyCar and specifically the Indy 500. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? And I know that's a really kind of bummer news to hear, as all that momentum was being built for the announcement. So what do you guys think? Does Honda have the right to do that? Do you think they're justified in holding that grudge?
So thank you for admitting that I was correct. Although I will say I did admit defeat because I thought there was no chance I would be right in the end. So, man, is Honda justified? Listen, I get where they're coming from. I get why Alonso was frustrated a couple of years ago, but I think they need to let bygones be bygones and just move on with this.
I, for one, am not that upset with Honda about this. I think that they are kind of standing their ground, for lack of a better word, kind of making him pay the price for basically speaking out against them. I mean, he shouldn't have probably done that in the first place. But as far as, do I think it's justified or not? I don't know. I mean, I can't say yes. I can't say no. I think both sides could have handled things a little bit better. I don't know. But I also, you said it's at the very last minute kind of thing that Honda stepped in. I don't think it's at the very last minute because this is just February. So he's still got some time to throw some stuff together.
Well, in the last minute, in that they were set to announce like Friday, and on Thursday they told him to kick rocks or something. I totally see what you're saying with there's room for both sides to kind of, let things go. And I agree with that. I just think that given what Alonso had to go through from 2015 to 2017, I mean, he's right. Honda was terrible in Formula One. They did him absolutely no favors. I mean, they as in McLaren and Alonso and Stoffel Van Dorn, they spent a lot of time and effort trying to get them from last place to somewhere towards the front, and it just never panned out. And it was, between a lack of preparation, a lack of engineering quality, things like that, whatever it may be, it just never worked out for him. And, at the time, yeah, I would have been frustrated too if I was Alonso. So I think Honda needs to take a step back and just realize that, yeah, we didn't really help out Fernando those years and McLaren as well. And, now we're in Formula One and we're winning again. So maybe we should just let it go. So I guess with that, Alonso, he's got some question marks to be filled now. Where does he end up? I mean, we had a couple fan questions on this one, including from Asher's Racing Channel and Asher's dad and Andy Jones and a couple others. So where do we think Alonso's going to end up now?
I think he's going to end up right back at McLaren where I said he was going to be at in the first place. I think that's his best shot. I was kind of taken aback when he was looking like he was going to be with Andretti anyways, because I felt like he was always going to be with McLaren. I feel like he's going to be back at McLaren.
So in the interest of disagreeing with Jess so that one of us can be right when he goes somewhere, I'm going to say he's going to be the Dragon Speed Indy 500 champion, Indy 500 driver. Oh boy. I'm going to regret saying that one for a while.
All right. That's a flex. I was about to say I have a hot, which is HAW capital T take coming, but I don't know if I can top that.
That's going to be hard.
My hot take was that Penske's going to say, screw it, we're putting 5 cars in the field, and Alonso's going to be one of them. No, that doesn't chop Dragon Speed, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to rescind my
Dragon Speed winning.
I'm gonna have to rescind my hot capital T take and just say Penske as a normal answer. So
you could make it a hot take spelled normal and with a small H.
Small HOT take is that Mike is the winner of this segment as far as HAW capital T take. So good job on that one, Mike. You got time to redeem yourself here, though, because the next question is will Andretti Autosports still field a 6th car at Indianapolis, and for whom?
Yeah, of course they're going to still put that car in the race. And for who is the really tough question. I'm going to pick somebody kind of left field here. I'm going to go with Oriol Servia. I think, he's been decent in his tries, so why not?
Well, I'm going to go with Carlos Munoz. He's got the Andretti history there before. I'm sure he probably wants back in. I think I've heard his name mentioned a time or two in other places over the last month, so I'll go with Munoz.
Yes, and I think technically Alonso is Andretti's 7th car, if we're counting Harvey. It's so easy to lose track since it's basically a third of the field at this point. But my answer is a guy who already has sponsorship announced, and that's actually James Hinchcliffe. And another reason I say that is when he was showing off his livery, it was just a kind of a brief sketch on his phone. The engine cover on that livery had Honda, and I believe that was pointed out to us by the critically acclaimed author Stephen King in our message group. So I think Hinchcliffe, since he's got the money, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in that entry at all. That's going to be my guess here. And then the final fan question for this segment is from David Mitchell on Facebook. Should IndyCar step in and help Fred find a ride?
No, I thank you, David, for commenting that, but IndyCar is under no obligation to help any driver, especially one who is not a regular, find a seat. I get why Mark Miles actually tried to help Tony Kanaan find some funding this year, but Fernando Alonso, no. The series, the Indy 500 in the series is bigger than just one driver.
I have to agree with you, which hurts me a little bit to agree with you, but yes, 100% should not get help from IndyCar. It's up to him. He wants to come over and win the Triple Crown, and that's cool, and that would be an amazing piece of history, but I don't think IndyCar needs to help him.
I agree, and I think that helping him out would be a kind of Tony George move, and that is no longer the case at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway of coming down to the final day and needing somebody, so let's go find Larry Foyt and put him in a car or something along those lines. So I think that is not the responsibility of IndyCar, and I think they should just kind of, unless we were at the point where we may not get 33 entries, maybe, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. So I agree. I do not think they should help. But thanks for the question, David.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on. So we'll take a break here for Team Pit Lane, and I'll run in with Stump the Host. So thank you to Matt Grunholz. Thank you, Colin Taylor. And lastly, thank you to Stephen A. Clark and everybody else who is a member and chats daily about racing. So with that being said, Stump the Host this week is going to honor Chip Ganassi Racing. Chip Ganassi Racing is celebrating their 30th year in motorsports this year. So this one is I don't want to say real easy, but it's a very simple question. They have won how many Indy 500s and how many IndyCar championships? I can see Matt counting right now.
I'm just going to make up numbers. Can I just make up numbers?
No, you're doing it wrong. Hang on. No, yeah, you go first. You go ahead.
You're telling me I'm doing it wrong. I'm just going to make stuff up. Like, how can you make up stuff wrong? I don't understand.
Well, if you get the question wrong, then you're making it up wrong.
They have won 7 and 9.
All right. Give me a second here. So Indy 500s, 2000, 2008, 2009, 2010. No. Yes. No, they did not win 09. So 2000, 2008, 2010, 2012. That it?
I need the Jeopardy clock right now.
I think that's,
I don't have the years listed in the press.
Was that 5?
If you said 5, it's not correct.
Is it 4?
4 is correct.
All right. I was close. And then championships is 96, 97, 98, 99, 03,
Jess is just sitting back and letting Matt count this one out.
08, 9, 10, 11, 13, 15, 17. No, I'm getting one of these wrong. 18. So I think that's what, 12?
12, yes.
I was expecting a boo for that for taking too long.
No, you deserve that one. So we will transition right into...
Guys, I thought of this one the other day. I honestly don't even know why I thought of this. I was going through a bunch of stuff in my closet and came across some old racing memorabilia. And so you guys are now, I don't know, marketing people, design people, whatever side of things you want to be here. And I want you to come up with the most ridiculous item that you could sell for, a race team or whatever that people are going to buy. I don't want t-shirts. I don't want koozies. I have all that junk. I want something completely unique for your race team. What is it going to be?
You talking like mass-produced item or like a memorabilia once in a lifetime item?
No, mass-produced.
A mass-produced
something you're just going to walk up to the merchandise trailer at the track and buy this.
Well, who doesn't want lucky underwear?
All right. Lucky underwear.
I guarantee you, if they put Marco Andretti's face on some underwear and said, if you will wear this, Marco Andretti wins, Jake Neely would buy like 20 of those.
Somebody's going to buy them.
I guarantee you, my mom would probably buy one just so that he would win a race. I guarantee Marco fans would show up in droves and buy those.
All right. Lucky underwear it is.
Speaking of Marco, Matt, I have to send your mother that Marco shirt that I wore on the...
That was like 5 months ago.
Yeah, listen, I get to the post office when I get to the post office.
Which is very rarely.
Yes. Even though it's like, I kid you not, 2 minutes from my house. Anyway, let's see here. I'm going to mass produce... That's a really good answer, Matt. There's no chance I'm going to beat you on this one. Foam steering wheels.
Okay, well, that's actually shockingly close to what I came up with. But
oh, you said foam. I thought you said phone. I'm like, what is a phone steering wheel?
It's the new technology in IndyCar. You can text and drive.
Oh,
I was thinking steering wheel covers. So, yep, we were shockingly close there. But that's pretty, I don't know. It just seems like something completely ridiculous, but people would appreciate it.
What the hell's a phone steering wheel? It makes no sense to me. It's technology.
Well, I don't want underwear with Alex Rossi's face on it or anybody's face on it. So
why wouldn't you want Rossi's face on it?
I think that's a discussion for a not family oriented episode. So we will move on. Thank you, Jess, for the lovely question. And thank you to everybody who probably played along with that one. Send us your best answer and we will we'll tweet them out. So with that being said, the last bit of news before we get to our fan questions this week is the F3 Americas and Indy Lights news. Honda has come forward with a prize for the American F3 champion, stating that they will get a full scholarship to run Indy Lights during the next season. So in this case, whoever wins F3 Americas in 2020 will be in the Indy Lights grid for 2021. So Matt and Jess, what are our initial thoughts, positives, negatives on this new scholarship?
I think it's positive. I don't have a whole lot of negatives, I guess, to say about this. I think it's interesting that Honda kind of came out of nowhere with this, but I can appreciate them wanting to put some people in in place to possibly be, their next big star, I guess.
Yeah, I got a little bit of both. I think positives obviously is finding a driver fully funded to jump up in Indy Lights. I think that's awesome for the Indy Lights series. I mean, it's hard to complain from that aspect of, given the low car counts in recent years, that you're going to get another driver with funding to just instantly jump in. I think that's super cool. I think one of my only negatives is that it kind of subverts the road to Indy concept that was formulated in 2010. And, obviously we do have drivers coming from Europe or wherever to jump into Indy Lights rides every season anyways. However, they're coming with their own money versus, having another series kind of add a rung to the ladder. I don't know if the road to Indy was okay with that or whatnot. So I hope this doesn't diminish the two series below the Indy Lights series. And I still hope that car counts and whatnot are still healthy in those formulas.
A fair concern for sure. It's definitely a positive. It will help the Indy Lights grid grow. I imagine the Road to Indy crew was in deep discussion with Honda and F3 on how to make something happen. I was wondering, and I think Rob Howden said this on the Road to Indy Insider show, that he thought maybe it would be better for Indy Pro 2000 to kind of, be the jumping point from F3 to Indy Pro. But nonetheless, I think it's a real positive to grow the car count. The F3 and F4 American series have been really good for drivers who need a little extra time to develop. So I don't see any problem with it. I think it's going to be really cool to grow that car count and see who's coming up through it. Kyle Kirkwood won the F3 championship a couple of years ago. Dakota Dickerson, a former Road to Indy driver, won the F3 championship in 2018 or 2019 and is now racing in the Michelin Prototype Challenge Series. So with that being said, do we see more drivers or maybe F3 teams using that series as a stepping stone to Indy Lights?
Yeah, I don't think that's a unfair speculation to think that an F3 team may be stepping into Indy Lights. And, again, that's kind of another positive angle, is if Indy Lights can somehow not quote unquote steal, but just quote unquote have F3 teams expand operations into their series, that's a huge get for Indy Lights as well. So there could be a lot of ramifications just from this one scholarship announcement. And it's kind of fascinating to watch.
I hope it brings more people to the series. And I also hope that it brings more eyeballs to the series, because that will continue to help grow the car count even more, because people will be willing to invest more. So yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good for them.
Yeah, I'm wondering if not only will teams use this as a stepping stone to Indy Lights, but maybe teams say, wow, this entire Road to Indy ladder is awesome. Maybe I should venture into one of the other series, which leads me to my next question. Should Indy Pro and USF 2000 be worried at all, whether it be the series as a whole or team owners or drivers?
I wouldn't see why they would need to be worried. I think this is, like I said, just going to possibly bring more eyeballs and more people to the series. So I personally think it should be viewed as, I would say, fairly positive. I mean, obviously there could be some things that shake up between here and there, but I think mostly they should look at it as positive.
Yeah, I guess for me, kind of as I touched on, is if you're deciding between, the Indy Pro 2000 or F3 to figure out which is your best bet to get an Indy Lights, now there's a discussion of which should I pick, versus 3 days ago, there wasn't this discussion. So I do think it creates a bit of conundrum for drivers on their way up the ladder. And it's not necessarily I'm worried about it, but it's just something that we'll have to keep our eyes on if F2000 drivers suddenly up and go to F3 instead of moving up to Indy Pro 2000.
I think I don't think they should be worried. I think you'll see some guys maybe that don't win the championship, but go up from F4 to F3 and continue the improvement. You might see them jump into USF 2000 or Indy Pro. They'll use it as almost like a lower rung type thing, which I think we've seen a little bit. I mean, Kyle Kirkwood started that way. So it's something to look into, like Matt said, but I don't think necessarily these series should be worried. I don't think they'll be going anywhere, although I think maybe down the line something might happen with some sort of F3, F4 merger with one of the lower series. I think that would be really cool to see. Rob Howden did mention that this week and made some good points on that one. So with that being said, we will jump into a ton of fan questions here. Thank you to everybody for submitting them. The first one, ironically, is anonymous and came into me on Facebook. So they want to know what the deal is with Carlin and Juncos Racing.
Juncos, I think, might be kind of just gone. But Carlin, I feel like they're just kind of keeping a lid on things where they try to figure out the last few details. But I feel like we should get some information from them here soon. But Juncos, I feel like if they do anything at all, it's going to be the 500. And frankly, I don't even know if we'll see them do that.
Yeah, I like the wording of this question. It kind of makes me think of two middle schoolers at recess going, "What's your deal, man?" Because I don't know how to answer it quite really. I mean, I think their deal is that they're probably trying to get an IndyCar program going, but they're being very cloak and dagger about it. So I guess I don't know what their deal is, man.
That was fantastic. So I'll start with Juncos like Jess did. Yeah, maybe they'll do the 500. I think otherwise Juncos you'll see in Indy Pro and Indy Lights. Other than that, I don't think we'll see too much of them this year. Carlin, I see what Jess is saying, but I'm not feeling the positive vibes on this one like I normally do. From what I've heard, they're really struggling. Gallagher hasn't necessarily even committed to the team, which was their biggest sponsor the last, 3 seasons? I forget how long they've been an IndyCar team. 4 seasons? Okay, thank you, Matt. So I'm going to say that we are not going to see Carlin in 2020.
Oh, that'd be sad. All right, thanks for that anonymous Facebook question. Next up is also from Facebook from our good friend Marty Davis. He wants to know, and this is kind of just a question about engine leases and whatnot. He wants to know if teams that run the Indy 500 only still have to pay the same amount of money per engine lease as full-time entries, or are they prorated just for the Indy 500?
So I'll answer this. Jess can chime in if I miss anything, but every team, whether they're a full-time entrant or an Indy 500 only entrant, pays the same amount of money for their May-only engine, which is give or take $50,000, around $300,000. I don't know if that's changed in the last couple of years since I saw that figure, but no matter if you're a Dreyer and Reinbold or you're a Team Penske, you're paying $300,000 for the engines for the month of May.
Yep. That's as far as I'm aware, that's still the way it works.
Well, how come we didn't get to make fun of Mike in this question? What do we do next?
I'm going to ask the next question, and I bet we find something to make fun of him about. So this one is coming from Frenchie, and he wants to know, with Hinch talking about this possibly being a gap year for him, who does he displace next year when he theoretically comes back? Who do you think he might kick out?
So I'm going to steal an answer from our Team Pit Lane chat and say Takuma Sato. I think that's a really good spot for him to be in. Sato might be getting close to retirement age, or maybe wants to scale things back eventually. So I know this is another hot take, but I'm going to say Takuma Sato.
Not quite a capital T. Maybe just an HOT, right, Jess?
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is going to be something that we discussed a couple months ago, in that I think Mike agreed. I don't know about Jess, but Mike and I think that this may be Ryan Hunter-Reay's last season, and that, as sad as that is, I do think that with him going, that would be a perfect place for Hinch to step back to and kind of come full circle, because I still have the opinion that he should have never have left Andretti Autosport for the various reasons that came up in 2015. But I do see him going back and probably replacing Ryan Hunter-Reay, who may retire.
So I'm gonna actually have a hot take here.
Oh.
I'm gonna go kind of a little left field on you guys, but this is strictly because I don't think that Hinch has produced enough good results lately to have like a real top team kind of ride coming at him. So I'm gonna say that maybe he's gonna replace TK at Foyt. I mean, I know he's only running 5 races this season, but we'll just say he has a full season ride. But I don't really feel like he's going to get an Andretti ride or even a Rahal ride with the results that he's produced lately, unfortunately.
That's fair. All right, good take. So Irvin Johnson from Facebook, who is part of the Facebook group trying to somehow preserve what is left of Nazareth Speedway, wants to know what safety improvements could be done at Pocono to bring some interest from IndyCar back to get the ABC Supply 500 back there.
I mean, the only thing I see is, and that's not a Pocono specific thing, it's just enhancing of the catch fencing and or building extremely high walls. Because, as we discussed in a while back, August, what's happened at Pocono the last couple of years has been more down to over aggressiveness by the drivers and not necessarily thing specific with the track itself, other than just the high speeds and layout. But, I think the track is fine if, drivers would take a more calm approach the first couple of laps. So me personally, I don't think it's a Pocono needs to improve anything for IndyCar to come back. I just think it's just kind of the circumstances of the racing conditions that caused those crashes.
I agree with it's the circumstances, but for argument's sake, I'm going to say I like the slightly higher walls. I wouldn't say dramatically higher, but slightly higher walls. They need to have the soft wall concept around the entire facility, not just in places. And then I think that one last thing that would really help them in IndyCar's eyes would be the actual at track people who take care of the facility during the races. Should something happen, have better training and be able to respond better. Because obviously I think the biggest issue was not that the catch fence, gave way and was torn, but it was how it was repaired. And I think that with just a little training, they could help that.
You stole my entire answer there. So in the interest of saying something else, I know some drivers complained that where the tunnel is under turn 2 caused some issues with the cars and how they reacted to certain situations. So I'm going to say cave in the tunnel and put it somewhere else where it's not right in the middle of a turn. I know that's kind of drastic and probably entirely too expensive, but just my idea there.
Yeah, fair enough. Next question is a question that was texted to us via Mike Kuzma, who is Mike Jokum's cousin. So probably pretty cool. Am I right? He wanted to know if we would like to see a joint Formula E IndyCar weekend on one of the street circuits.
Yes, he is pretty cool. Probably my favorite cousin and probably the only one that listens to this. So
okay, this is recorded now, so the rest of your family is just going to dog you.
That's fine. And thank you, Mike. I would. Formula E is slowly starting to grow on me. They released the picture of the new car yesterday, and it's much improved over the crazy Batmobile looking thing of 2 years ago, I think was the last car. But I think it would be kind of interesting to see the two different styles of cars go. I don't care about comparing lap times, but just the racing style on a street circuit would be really cool to see.
I want to say yes, but at the same time, I'm kind of torn on this because I don't know where would be a good place to do it. But it's such a tough question. I guess I'll go with yes, because I would like to see Formula E come over here and have a good race someplace where I would go see it.
I'm going to say no. And the reason I say that is I'm not entirely sure there is a circuit on the schedule that they would be able to race at without some sort of course alteration. I mean, you look at some of the tracks they race at, they are super small. And not only that, but I don't know if Formula E would want to, let's say, run at Barber in 2 minutes and 57 seconds when IndyCar is doing it in, I don't know what they do, a minute 20, minute 15. So, I mean, I don't really care for Formula E. I think, it's got a pretty good concept. I just think the technology needs to catch up to make the cars faster. And then some of the gimmicks are not of my liking, like the fan boost. I think is kind of weird. Never really got behind that. So yeah, I'm not too wild about Formula E, and I don't think it's going to happen in the future, or at least next couple of years.
All right. So our next one is going to come from Chad Frankenfield off of Twitter. He wants to know, do we see a wild card team kind of hitting on the setup this year because of the aero screen, the added weight, or do we think it's going to be, typical Penske, Ganassi, that kind of thing?
Not out of the question, but I do think that the big three are going to kind of keep the status quo and continue their dominance, especially since a team like Penske is showing up to the test with, 4 or 5 entries or whatever. So they're going to, obviously have a lot of data to pull from. So I know it's just one venue, but hopefully we'll translate to other tracks. I still think it's going to be status quo as usual.
I'm going to disagree, mainly just to disagree, but I had this answer kind of ready. I'm going to say Ed Carpenter Racing is going to punch above the weight that they've punched the last couple of years, not just because they're going to hit well on the setups. I think their drivers, I think Rinus VeeKay is a stud. He's improved every year and won at all the Road to Indy levels. And I think he can handle the new aero screen challenges with weight. Connor Daly had a resurgent year last year, kind of bouncing around. So, and obviously Ed Carpenter will do just fine at Indy, I'm sure, qualify on the top 9 for sure, and hopefully finish well. So Ed Carpenter Racing is my pick there.
I can definitely see it helping some people out. I hope that we see it shake things up. I don't know if it's going to be dramatic, but I definitely feel like we could see some people who were middle runners maybe come up and be fighting at a few tracks at least. That would be nice to see. I don't have a specific team that I would like to see it happen for, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think the setups are going to be a big secret this year. Just real quick, did you guys, just random fact here, did you guys know, speaking of secrets, that Danica Patrick was a brand ambassador for the deodorant Secret in 2005 and 2006? I didn't know that. Did you guys know that?
Guess what type of deodorant I'm never going to buy again?
Old Spice.
I only have one thing to say.
It's been a while.
It has been. And after I said something about her in our text message the other day, I kind of felt it coming. So I'm not going to lie to you.
It was subliminal. When you put that, I'm like, you know what? I got to throw one in this week.
I did it to myself. So my bad on that one.
Great question by Chad. So we will continue on next from our pal Tanner Watkins over on Twitter asked, do we see a potential surprise Indy 500 entry, maybe that people aren't talking about right now?
Of course.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we had a fan question like this last week with Asher, and we kind of said, you never know. As far as narrowing down like a who or a team or whatnot, I mean, we'll just maybe throw in F2 driver from last year who's not racing in F2 this year. Maybe they'll just come out of the woodworks and throw $1 million together and buy a ride.
I definitely feel like there's potential because there's always potential for somebody to come out of left field. There's always the potential for somebody to do the double. There's always potential for somebody who's retired previously to come back, or somebody who's retired from another series to come try it, like Tony Stewart. There's just always that possibility with the 500 because it's just such a big draw. So I definitely think that we are going to see somebody kind of, that nobody's talked about yet, I guess.
Yes, I will throw a name in the hat. And well, one, my obvious not take will be Felipe Massa. And then the one who I'm sure a few people have talked about him, but Aaron Telitz, I know he's got a little bit of funding this year, I think is what I heard. He's doing the endurance races with Lexus. So I would love to see Aaron get a shot in the 500 this year.
Yep, saw a guy and avid spotted cow lover. So Aaron's a good dude. Moving on, 2 more here. First one is from Danny Vaughn from Twitter. wants to know, between Ed Jones, Spencer Pigot, and Gabby Chavez, who is likeliest to make an IndyCar return?
Spencer Pigot, I think out of the three, had the most relative success out of the three. I know Gabby wasn't in particularly a great situation, especially with the Harding year when they were running the couple-year-old shocks on the car. But yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
I'm going to say Gabby. Maybe not, anything full-time, but I could see him possibly doing the 500.
I don't want to say Ed Jones. I mean, and that means I have to agree with one of you two. And I don't think Ed Jones is coming back. So I'm going to go with Pigot because I think he is, quite dumb. Like he's, he's the old, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I think that because he was most recently in IndyCar, I know Jones was too, but Jones already has a deal lined up in DTM and Pigot doesn't. So Pigot's probably still, exploring an option for the Indy 500. So I'm going to say Pigot as well.
All right. So we are down to our final question, and this might be quite possibly the best fan question we have ever had submitted. It is going to stay anonymous, but you guys have heard us mention his name before, and you have seen us tweet about him multiple times before. But this person wants to know, is Wolfgang a good-looking media member, or is he the best-looking media member?
Now, by anonymous, are you actually saying Mike Jokum?
This is 100% anonymous, so I cannot tell you who submitted this one.
Does their first name start with a J and last name end in Ely? Nope. Cannot disclose who asked this one. All right, I'm gonna let Mike go first.
Well, I have two questions.
Oh no.
Yes.
No, he is by far the best looking media member. There was nothing funnier than seeing him at the Rolex passed out with about three people taking selfies around him. He was really asleep. So yes, he is by far the best looking media member. I am envious of his good looks.
I know Mike and I aren't as good looking as him, if that answers your question, or if that answers the anonymous fan question. I'm not as good looking as him. No shame.
100% is the best looking. And if I hadn't heard the squirrel story in Daytona, I probably would have only had him as good looking. But the squirrel story makes him the best looking, because anybody who is in the media and still takes a camera with a roll of film that has to be developed to a race and uses it on not race cars, it's got to be the best looking person there for sure. I love Wolfgang and his two questions every single time.
Well, with that being said, thank you, Mr. Anonymous, for your lovely fan question. That is definitely my favorite of all time. We will jump right into the pitfalls.
And now it's time for Pit Lane Parlay's Pitfalls of the Week.
And this week's pitfalls are sponsored by our friends at Corsa Brew Coffee, tailored to the motorsports world that captures the essence of speed, power, and adrenaline. Promo code PLP20 for 10% off your order. I'll start it off here since mine's kind of boring. There was a Mercedes article that came out today that they were still fixing a few minor issues on their 2020 engine, to which I say, who cares? We know you're going to win the championship in 2020. Stop worrying about a few little things. And I'm sure in the preseason, they're going to go, oh my God, Ferrari's coming out of nowhere this year. And then we're going to see the same old thing in Formula One again.
Yeah, I think one of my best articles I ever wrote was a Formula One preview. And all it said was, I think Mercedes is going to win the championship. And then a period and my signature. And that was it.
Yep. That pretty much sums it up right there. I don't think that they're really working on much of it. Maybe they're working on the design of their merchandise, and they're trying to come up with something like Lucky Underwear or the steering wheel cover or the foam steering wheel that we are planning on mass producing.
No, you say that. What they have done already is they've been whittling since March So they have already whittled all of their parts. Meanwhile, Williams is probably just starting. But
they don't even have their wood yet.
But they've been whittling. Mercedes has been whittling for so long that they finally encountered a problem. But they're on top of it. It's okay. They still have time to whittle a solution, we'll say. My pitfall is also kind of short, sweet, and petty. It is a clip from is it 12 Hours of Bathurst? The 12 Hours of Bathurst that Mike did a good job of covering on Twitter. There was a clip from one of the accidents that happened over the weekend. And basically what happened, it was a 2-car collision, and pretty obvious that there's 2-car crashing. I mean, there was dust everywhere. Both cars made contact with each other and the wall. And there's a shot of the marshals in the screen. There's 2 of them, both watching the wreck happen with their own eyes, and they're looking at each other. Then they turn around and look at the sky. Then they turn around to see which way the wind is blowing. They turn around for the fan asking for an autograph and a selfie in the crowd. Oh, and then they decide, oh, yeah, we should probably throw a yellow. I think it was some 10 seconds went by before they decided, oh, yeah, maybe we should alert the drivers coming up this blind corner that there's an accident ahead. Even the whole crowd behind them, you could see them. They're all yelling at them like, hey, you should probably do your job. And they're still just like, what were we supposed to do again? So that was funny / not funny, because that could have, obviously led to a serious situation with the driver, hitting a wrecked car. So I'm not sure what they were doing, but we would like to see marshals throw a yellow flag if there's an obvious yellow flag situation.
Yeah, that's more than a little human error right there. That's just a little bit ridiculous.
Negligent at that point.
Yep.
I have nothing to add to this one.
All right. Mine's going to be real quick. I found an article in The Guardian. It was written by Giles Richards. It put on the 16th, so it's been a few days now. But the headline is, prospective F1 drivers without wealthy parents have no chance. That is all. That is my pitfall. I mean, that's brutal, I guess, is the only thing I can say right there. Yeah, I mean, we all know that money helps, and it does a lot especially in F1, but it's still some people, I would say, have enough talent to, maybe get there without their parents' money.
Yeah, there are plenty of drivers, I'm sure, in F1 and motorsports around the world that are extremely talented and wow a sponsor and stick with that sponsor for a long period of time. So hopefully no children read that article, because if I was 10 years old and read that article, I'd probably quit racing karts or whatever and go to another sport, because, well, there's no future for me in that sport. So it's definitely a doom and gloom article that seems kind of just unnecessary.
Sounds like something I would have wrote.
That's
not a compliment at all. Just give up hope now, young children.
Just quit while you're ahead.
Quit while you still have money.
Well, with that being said, we'll wrap it up here. Guys, do we have anything left before we close off? Nope. Jess?
Nope.
Go ahead and sign us off.
And guys, keep your lug nuts tight.